In today's video, I'm going to bring you through a brand that does over $2.2 million every single month. And this is what the actual website looks like. I mean, if I have to be honest, the reason I chose to do this video for this brand is because they're doing very successful numbers and their website isn't even optimized to the fullest potential, especially if we compare it to like brands like Javi, where there's this quality. If you're the founder, don't beat me up one day if you see me on the street, but I'm just saying like the website could be better. In fact, they're not doing the best that they could on the website side, but they're absolutely killing it on the creative side. In fact, that's what I'm going to show you. In this video, I'm going to break down all of their funnels, all of their ad copies, all of their ads are killing. And then I'm also going to show you the exact strategy that we use to funnel hack these companies so that we can find winners for our own brands. So make sure to stick until the end. In case you are a new viewer, my name is Brando. I typically work with 8-figure clients in case you are a new viewer. And so this is just an example of a client that did over $40,000 in sales just yesterday alone. So now that we got the proof out of the way, let's get right into the video. The first thing that I want to show you is actually how to use this tool so that we can break down the brand. What I want to do and start with is actually break down the entire funnel. So what I like to do always is filter by longest running ads, status, so that we can see the number of active ads they're running. As you can see, they have over 1,000 active ads. And one observation that I made is that they actually have many different types of pages depending on the persona that they're targeting. So they have 34 active ads for this like doctor page. Then they have 140 active ads for this other a product that they're selling specifically for like foot, right? And then they have another a page that has 210 active ads, which acts kind of like I think it's fake. I believe it's fake. It's like AI, but it acts as like a native ad or a native page so that it looks a lot more organic, which has an impact on the ad results. If the ad could look a lot more organic, you can see here, it looks way more organic than having maybe like a brand logo. I think and I know for a fact that it typically gives you better cost per acquisition if you know how to do it well, right? And so a lot of these ads are very kind of raw and organic, as you can see, and that's why perhaps they work. And so they're doing this kind of like distribution, right? And the ads are very successful. So let's take a look at the funnel first. I always like to go on this tool and use like kind of like a landing page kind of like checker here, where you can see all the landing pages they're sending traffic to. In fact, this is kind of their top landing page if you take a look at this one over here, and it's how the 72-year-old grandmother ditched her meds for this secret neuropathy relief remedy. And so this, let me turn off the notifications here for a sec. And so this is basically their top winning landing page. If you take a look at what they're doing over here, this is the next page after they click through the advertorial that you just saw. And of course, this maybe looks a bit better than the page that I showed you, right? The product page of the Shopify website. But it's, I think it could be better. It could be a lot improved. It's definitely simple and it's catered to the avatar customer. But this is proof that you don't need like the most stunning and effective landing page structure, right, in your funnel, right? You need a good offer and a very good ads. Like those two things, and at least a decent landing page that looks something like this. That's what you need, right, to scale to $1 million plus per month, right? Cross the $1 million month at least, which is what they did. One other observation, and this is by the way the offer, they're doing a 1, a 2, and a 3 pack, and they're kind of like saying they're getting the best deal, say 50% out of like this one over here. This is a very standard one. And then they go to the cart page and it's very standard checkout. Okay, nothing special on those sides. They definitely have upsells. One other observation that I saw is that they're running good ads on Amazon. Not necessarily ads, but they're also doing quite well on Amazon. In fact, if you take a look at all of their store on not Shopify, but Amazon, they have 600 reviews, 200 reviews, 3,000 reviews almost over a year, 2.5K. And so they're definitely growing and bringing in, I would say, a big chunk of revenue also from, the Amazon side as well. So let's take a look at what they're doing here. But if there's one observation that I eventually want to bring you through this video is their creative system, because this is what allows them. I have a bunch of things to talk about over here, but this is what allows them to actually have predictable scale and predictable results when it comes to their paid advertising, is having a predictable creative process. If you have a system and an engine that is essentially going on a cycle and self-learning, right? Of course, there's no AI that does that. I'm actually building in the process of building an AI that does creative strategy. So I'll keep you posted when that is out. But as of today, you need people to do that, right? And so if you have a systematized process, and I'm going to bring you through this exact same process in just a second, but if you have a systematized process that brings you through the research and the ads that you want to test, the iteration cycle, the learnings, then this is what you need to get to $1 million a month, along with, as you can see over here, a good offer that gets people to buy on the other side. Okay, so just going back to this, the landing pages that they're testing, the reason why you're seeing so many landing pages is because they're doing like iterations on their top landing pages. Let me just take this away. They changed like the images here. This is the same one, of course. They're basically split testing. Let's see if I can find it. They're split testing two different images. I can't find the link, but I saw like 3 or 4 links of the same landing page where they had like a different header, a different subheader, a different kind of like image over here. In fact, if there's one thing, if you have a successful advertorial, don't like, you can still split test a completely different advertorial, but one thing that you can do to like low hanging fruit is that you can just duplicate it and just change the headline or the way that you frame the headline and the subheadline, and definitely also the first image, which is, these are the 3 most impactful things: the header, the subheadline, and the image. Really, really important. So let me bring you through their exact creative system, but before we do, let me show you some of their ads so you kind of take a look at what they're doing. One thing that I did notice is that they have a lot of creative diversification, which is essentially what Meta is trying to push out there that they want, especially with the Andromeda update. They want diversification. If you have the same exact ads, where your ad account, 80% of your ad account has very, very similar ads, then they're going to put all of those ads in the same bucket and show them to the same people, and your frequency goes up. So one thing that you notice here is that they're doing image ads, video ads, different hooks. This is a testimonial. There's POVs, right? There's also, I think, a doctor angle. There's a lot of VSLs, right? There's kind of like this green screen over here. There's a lot of different variations. If we take a look at the variation mix in terms of videos and images, they're doing 40% images and 55% video ads. A lot of people think that image ads don't work and can't scale. That's absolutely not true. In fact, I did a video yesterday about another company that scales with 60% image ads, so more images than videos. So you just have to understand the framework. So let's take a look at some of these videos, just to have an understanding of what is actually happening here.
Try this lotion for 10 nights and see what happens to your restless legs. Night 1. Within minutes of massaging Mama Bear into your legs, you'd feel a wave of relief as those crawling and twitching sensations melt away. Night 3. This is when you'll start noticing it's much easier.
So here is a concept that does essentially night 1, night 3, night 7, night 30. What happens is a transformation. So one way to actually diversify this is, if you actually see that this video is performing well on the ad account, identify what it does. Identify the angle and the avatar, right? So that you can repurpose the creative concept in another way. So instead of doing day 1, day 3, day 7 on a VSL or a video or a UGC video, you do the same exact thing maybe on a carousel ad. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 7, and people essentially consume and receive the same type of marketing, but they consume a different type of content, which is different. It's diversification, which Facebook really likes nowadays. Okay, so I'm not going to go every single ad, of course. You can take a look yourself, but this is very successful. And the process they go through is this process over here. I'm going to bring you through the exact same process they use, most likely, and what we definitely use to scale brands to $50,000, $100,000 a day. So you can do the same. So process number 1, or step number 1, start with research, research about the customer and research about the creatives. How do you do customer research? Well, there's many, many ways. One way that you can definitely do it is that we can use tools like, AdSpy. And so what we like to do here is essentially go after and research maybe something like under eye bag, assuming we're selling something related to under eye bag, and we can take a look at all these creatives that are, of course, winners. How do we know they're winners? Of course, we know if they're winners if they have a lot of likes, comments, and shares. I like to filter by shares. I wish I could filter by saves, but there's no saves, because if you save the video, or at least maybe no, love's like, if you save the video, it really means that you care about it. If you share it as well, of course. So the next thing, obvious thing to do is filter by shares. That's what I do, at least. And I also like to filter by like the last 3 to 6 months, so that we know that what we're funnel hacking and what we're studying is something at least somewhat very relevant. And so I like to kind of like do customer research by taking a look at these ads and also just reading all of these comments. Many cases, 70% of the time, you can kind of like read through all of these, especially if it's not like a bottom of funnel ad. If it's a top of funnel ad, you can read all of these comments that are obviously telling you, this is what I think, this is what I hate, this is what I love, this is also something that I'm dealing with. And these are all like very interesting ways to come up with different angles. You can probably get the same structure and study the same structure of this video, because it's proven, the sequence of it, but kind of start it or make it or generate it or produce it with another type of angle, which is something that you maybe saw from a comment over here. We do the same exact thing with like TikTok. So let's just say under eye bags, we do research. Let's just say we like this video. So we watch the video, we study the framework of it, and then we also read all, 1,000 comments. And some of these likes have like 50,000 likes, 30,000 likes, 6,000 likes, 92,000 likes. It means that people are resonating with it. Okay. One other strategy that we use to do customer research is also, of course, doing research on Reddit, which is very useful, and research on Facebook groups. Facebook groups, if you can kind of like, if you're doing selling like a neck pain, you can go in here and kind of like take a look at what people are saying and talking about when it comes to when it comes to neck pain. Okay, and so these are all things that are super useful when it comes to the customer research part. When it comes to the creative research, we kind of like use the same strategy, but just look at the actual ad, so you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. You can use Ad Spies, you can use Altria, and I do want to say one quick thing just to take a step back. It doesn't mean that, you know, because I'm using Altria and Ad Spy and these tools, these are like the absolute tools that will 100% guarantee you the success. No, what will guarantee you success is finding things that work, understanding why they work, and repurpose them in your own way to make it work for yourself, and also doing enough customer research so that you know exactly what people think, what they think they need, what they actually need, what is their aspiration, what is their motivation, all of these things that allow you to like click and have that buying trigger that allows people, or allows the conversion to happen in the first place. Okay, so that is what actually works.
How old do you think I am?
Okay, so that is being said on that side, I'm done. The next step is to compile high intent concepts to test. This is, you can do it with the TikTok strategy. You can go on Ad Spy. One other great way to do it here is that you can go on Ad Spy. Once again, you can filter by under eye bag, and here you can basically, you'll come across all of these different companies, not just one, but all these companies that are filtered under, you know, under eye bag, that have a lot of shares. And you can, it's like an endless scrolling. I'm not sure why it's, I think it froze, but there's an endless scrolling of ads that you can find. And, you know, AdSpy does a great job at actually giving you great ads to funnel hack. Okay, so this is how we actually handle it. One other way that we do it is just talking about customer research, is that we go on Amazon, and we also do customer review mining. This is something that you probably know, but we use a tool called Copilot Shulex, which allows us to go in here. It's an extension that I don't have as of now because I don't do it, my team does. But essentially, you can read all, it reads all the comments, and it gives you kind of like a summary of what people are complaining about, what they like, what they dislike, what they rave about, what they would want more or extra, so that you can pretty much come up with unique angles that you can kind of approach the market with, that is maybe different from what everybody else is doing in the marketplace. Okay, so these are all like cool strategies. One last thing that I do want to talk about, which is very important, is also like whenever we find an ad, let's just say this is something that really works well, or like another type of ad is something that we saw, let's just say this one over here, something that really works well. We want to dissect it and try to understand why it worked. It's part of understanding, other than like the angle, the avatar, the positioning statement, the unique value propositions, is actually to break down the ad. This one over here, break down the ad. And so let's just say we found an UGC ad that's a killer. We break down the framework, so hook, you know, the reframe, the authority, the solution reveal, the product, you get the point. Then we analyze buying triggers, right? What are the elements that the user, or that the brand actually is presenting within the product to have people buy the product. And then of course a scene by scene breakdown, which is basically dividing scene by scene. It's very scientific, it's kind of very, I would say, boring and time consuming, but it definitely makes sense to do it for the ads that are doing very well, so that we can understand the types of things and the elements that are making this winning ad a winner. It could also be, an observation about editing. For example, we did a test with another client that is basically, we went from editing 1 second and a half B-rolls to doing 2 to 3 seconds because the end consumer was maybe older and needed a bit more time to process the content, and maybe more simple subtitles. And that allowed us to, find something that worked a lot better and was a lot more scalable because it resonated more with the audience. Okay. So that's it with this part. Let me just go back over here. Once we do customer research, creative research, we compile the right creatives that we want to take inspiration from. Then it comes down to the brief. You have to make sure that you write a very good brief, something like this. This is an example, but ideally you have, this is the brand name, whatever, the avatar, the angle, the desire, the funnel stage. This would be a top of funnel ad, the reference video, the duration of the video, the voiceover, whether it's a yes or no, the subtitles, and also additional comments that you have. This goes to the editor, so it has to be very well briefed. This is how we do it. We have like blocks, voiceover, text overlay. We have notes. Ideally in the notes section, you have like some sort of inspo B-roll, so that they understand what you want to reproduce. Not for everything, but at least for maybe the intro, the hook, which is very important. Then the video editor needs to be good enough and experienced enough to take a look at the reference and see exactly what we want to reproduce. Of course, if you have other comments, you let the video editor know. This is a very important component. In fact, one of the most important things, because if you don't know how to communicate with your editor, you're never going to be able to have a concept that is truly something that you want as a concept, right? And so once you do the briefs, we receive the final videos and assign revisions. This is really important. You send revisions. We use Google Drive. You can use frame.io to just leave comments, as long as they see exactly where the problem is in the video. And then this is probably one of the most important things, is it's improve edits, and improve the edits and the relationship and communication between the creative strategist, the person that actually creates these briefs. Maybe it's yourself, maybe it's an actual creative strategist that you hired, whoever that person is, the communication between yourself or the creative strategist and the editor. It has to be spot on, because if they don't understand what you want, and if you don't understand what they don't understand about your brief, whatever it is, or maybe it's like a lack of skill, right? Maybe you have to like move forward with somebody else, but you need to communicate with them to understand what the problems are. So once or twice a week, I recommend that you hop on as a creative strategist, as a leader, you hop on with your creative strategist, or they hop on with your editors and talk about what can be improved and what are the observations of the edits, so that you can take advantage of that. Next thing is that the combination of everything I spoke about, right? The research, the customer research, the creative research, right? Piling up winning concepts that you can reproduce for yourself, briefing, communication, right? Revisions and communication over here. All this is for one simple goal: to get from like a below 10% hit rate to a closer to like 15-30% hit rate, which is the ideal situation we want to be in. And then eventually you go after iterations and volume. So you scale the winners with iterations. And by, take a note that we are in the Andromeda update era, whatever that means. And so Andromeda basically wants you to do bigger swings from one ad set to another. As an example, this is ad set 1, this is ad set 2, this is ad set 3. We want to make sure that there's a bit more diversification. You can iterate, of course, with a different hook, but you can also iterate in other ways, like changing the concept a bit, right? Of course, it's borderline. I'm not saying to not iterate. I'm also saying to make sure that between one ad set and another, outside of the iterations, you start expanding into other angles, different marketing angles, right? Different avatars, different creative concepts, because that is what Facebook wants. And what typically iterations do is that they bring you and they scale that winner a lot more, and they prolong the lifetime. So if the winner produces 500K, whatever that month, this iteration process will either prolong the lifetime of the creative, or kind of like do both, prolong the lifetime and increase revenue at the same time. So this is pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Really, really important aspects. If there's one observation, is that of course they cracked the offer, but they absolutely cracked this process, a predictable creative process that they can kind of give to the team, and it runs by itself. This is the leverage at the end of the day. People talk about, hey, I want to test this product. I'm testing 50 different products, but they don't have leverage. Like nothing works because they don't have leverage over the marketing side of things. Okay. So this is by far the observation that I'm making about this company. Once again, they're successful. They're doing over $2.2 million a month. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. If you want to join this community, feel free to join. I like to keep it small. If you want to engage with me or other, 7-8 figure entrepreneurs, feel free to check this out. And also, if you are a brand doing at least, I would say $100,000 a month, then you can explore the opportunity of perhaps working with us if you want, by booking in your free audit down below. It's the first link in the description. That is it for this video, and definitely see you in the next one. Bye.